It's your boy, your nephew, your cousin. It's the Don. Chaz Evans. You're checking out the hottest podcast in the world, the 3 Count Podcast. Woo, woo.
I'm in fashion, roller coaster.
Well, now, by this time, you have already figured this out. This is now entering 201, and of course, as always, I'm your host, Clifford Red Dawg, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. That's right. But like every good Sherpa, which by now you should be saying it, I am your Sherpa because, I am. It's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. And you see the man right next to me. He comes to us from C3W, SCWA, IWA, NWA, EWA, FWA, Outbreak. He's from every single random promotion that you can find on the mid-Atlantic coast. He's always traveling. He's the man, the myth, the legend. He is the other half of the 3 Count Podcast. He is the host of the debate show. He is the man, the Don, Chaz Evans.
Wow. First of all, I was with you till you said IWA. I was like, wait, I haven't been there. Then you said, and I was like, well, FWA. I'm like, wait a minute. Because I know the intro that you do. And I was like, oh, I wonder if Cliff actually did homework on me.
Oh, I mean, I could go down the rest of the roster if you want.
I mean, no, that's fine. You don't have
to. You can find him on IWTV. You've seen him on Outbreak. You've seen him actually, he'll be part of New York Fight, right? That's coming up soon.
And Grapple We Trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's coming out soon. So yeah, definitely check that out. That's yeah.
I mean, let's be front. Like, you've been to a lot of different promotions, and we've traveled to a bunch of them ourselves. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, like you and Prince, like Machiavelli, have been all over the place. Like, you guys are like pretty much walking billboards for new Black wrestlers.
Yeah, like, and the funny thing is, like, last year, if you would have said that to me, I've been like, no, that wouldn't have happened. Give me like 5 years. Then I start, I believe that. And you're right. It's crazy to think that in like the short amount of time, what me and Prince has done, like, it's not saying that we've done like a lot of stuff, but we've got a lot of traction, and it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. Like 2 years, I think it's like 2 years. And yeah, like we're being talked about and like featured on stuff with like Darius Lockhart and O'Shea, and like I'm like, I look up to these guys, like, and to just like be put in a class like that is just it's crazy. It's just insane.
It is true, man. Like, one thing that you and I we always talk about is that we talk about like the growth that we've had in like the span of 2 years, right? And it's one thing that I was thinking about is that you and I have been in roughly about the same amount of time, and we have like progressed and pushed and pulled and fought and continued to keep trying to strive. And we started up this podcast, and we have our debate show, and we have our interview show, and we've learned so many lessons from those. And I thought it was kind of cool that you and I were talking. I was like, yo, we should do kind of like a notes exchange, right? Of just things that we've learned over the last 2 years. And I know there's a lot of wrestlers out there who will probably be like, damn, I didn't know that. I should probably do that. And I should probably check this out. Right. So let's chop it up, man. So in your time that you've been in now, right, just a little over 2 years, what is like some of the things that you like seen from the first time that you've been in the ring to now?
Like some of the things I've seen?
Yeah, like what have you seen like that's helped you grow as
okay. So the one thing I really is watching other people's matches is like and just seeing what they're doing, because at the end of the day, like, especially like you always watch the main event because that's where you want to be, right? I always like, especially SCWA is a really good place that we, where we can actually, go out there and watch, the rest of the show. Me and you we always we sit at the table right there in the back and we watch the rest of the show, and we just see like, oh, okay, oh, I saw how he did that, and because you learn, like, when you really, that's for pro athletes, when you train yourself in that sport, you start to like watch other people do it, and you start to pick up on things. It's kind of like how coaches do with film. Like I've stopped watching wrestling even on TV. Like I stopped watching wrestling for the entertainment standpoint and watching it as a learning strategy. Like I couldn't tell you like how many times like I've sat and watched the match on AEW or watched the match a pay-per-view on WWE, and I go, oh, that's dope. Let me write that down so I don't forget that. So like just definitely like, looking at wrestling from a learning standpoint instead of entertainment. Like yes, I still get excited and some things will be like I still mark out and pop for things. Like I still scream and do flare bumps when some insane spot happens on the TV. But like I'm learning from it. Like I'm watching because that's where I want to be. I want to be on TV. I want to be on the same level as these guys. What are they doing, and how can I, tweak what I already have to match what they're doing, so I can get on that level. So it's really just learning because I forgot who said it, but a lot of people actually said on the podcast. Once you start learning and you stop learning, that's when you need to be out.
Yeah.
And that's so true because every time, because even I promise you, even the top guys, like your John Moxleys, even your Romans, are getting notes like you can do this better, you can do this better. Then no one's out here perfect. They're, So I feel like, all right, once you continue to learn, I'm like, all right, cool. That's what makes me want to get out there more. Like, all right, cool. What can I learn now? Apply, and maybe not apply some things because you can always get bad advice from people. Not every advice is good advice, and just put it to work and just like figure it out. I think that's the joy of like indie wrestling. It's the figuring out part.
Yeah, it's the one thing you said. It's like you stop watching wrestling in the entertainment sense, and you start watching wrestling to like dissect like what you can learn, right? So besides like the psychology rate of like how a match is put together, or just the psychology of what two wrestlers are working together in a hold, to like what's being done to help push that match into a bigger orchestra, right? So I was at AEW, right, in Baltimore, and I was just watching, right, and I popped for a move that Deonna Purrazzo did on Mercedes Martinez, right, and nobody else in the you could tell fans from workers because nobody else popped for the move. I was the only one, like loud as shit, like everything was dead quiet. Now I saw what happened was Mercedes was in a wrist lock, she got pulled down, and then Deonna put her legs in between and then made it look like she hyperextended out Mercedes' leg or arm, and I popped, and I was like, oh, let's go, and nobody else, just dead silent. And I was the only one who was just excited to see this one move. And I was like, I'm gonna take this move and I'm gonna use it somewhere,
right,
in the world. But it's the idea that you're watching wrestling and you stop watching it to get popped for big moves, but you're getting popped now because you're like, damn, like I like that lock, or damn, I want to be able to hit that. And I mean, we're all that way, but it was just cool. It's definitely something I've noticed over the last 6 months, that I stopped paying attention to matches that were, not that I don't get excited about them like you were saying, right? But it's definitely, I stopped getting excited about those matches and pulled myself out and was just like, all right, what can I take away from this match? What am I learning about this match? And then what's even crazier is what can I do to avoid doing those pitfalls?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I learned that in college, that one of the rules in acting, acting teacher Ray Berta, he does Broadway. He's not no super big star, but he does Broadway shows. He was on Constantine at one point. He had like he knows what you call it. But anyway, he told us like one of the first rules in acting is what you call it. He said cheat and steal. And these were on the board when we walk in the first day of class, and of course he explained it. But he's like, cheat by stealing other people's stuff, like in a sense of you see how they work. All right, you see what works, you take that and have to apply it to you, because if it works, that means it's good. He was like, admire each other's work, but steal from each other. And I was like, wow. And it's the same thing with wrestling. Like, not necessarily we're stealing it from another person, because like, I mean, come on, like no one owns any wrestling move, like really, like unless somebody show me a trademark or patent. Like no one owns the wrestling move. So if someone does something in a match, I'm like, that's tough. I can use that. I write it down, steal it, and use it. It's all about learning and evolving. And like we talked about on the debate show, as far as Jericho evolving, how he's constantly evolving. And it's why he's can maintain a 30-year career, because he's always evolving.
It's just funny because, like, full transparency for people who don't know, we're recording this on the 16th. So give you an idea, go back, watch the 15th of May. You'll see what episode we were talking about. It was a debate between Jericho and Michaels on who is the GOAT. But you're right. Like, we always borrow stuff and take stuff from other people, because we know like that stuff's gonna work. If we can do it, then psychologically we can also get that kind of advantage as well with the crowd and be able to draw them into what we're doing.
That's how I know I'm good, because you always steal my shit.
Man, listen, when you do the steamroller flip, come talk to me, because that's definitely something that I've been able to learn, which is something that we should also be talking about, right? Is that what we end up finding out is that a lot of people will stop training and they'll go to shows, right? And they're not saying that they're not bad, right? Not saying that they're bad at all. It's just that they stop going to training, and then you can see like the plateau between like where they were and where they are and where they could be, And it's something that we've kind of taken to heart too. It's like, never stop training, like always be training. And you can learn stuff while you're like at shows. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, absolutely.
But to apply the things that you're learning, like, you should be applying those in training. And that's something that you and I kind of taken to heart, was like, we're always going to be working more to be able to do things that we want to do better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, factual. Like, people get, they go to training, they get start getting on shows, they don't go. And that's, like you said, they plateau. And that's the one thing that I try to enforce myself, is that I never want to stop training. Like, you think about like professional athlete, like LeBron James, right? This is like, he spends like this crazy amount of money on his conditioning alone. And you gotta be like, really invest in yourself and to push yourself, because if you may have it, you could be the next Stone Cold Steve Austin, next Roman Reigns, but if you don't train, you got to get there. Like, they weren't just, Stone Cold didn't just pop out and was, Austin 316 and stunning everybody. It took time. Same thing with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns wasn't the tribal chief, right off the jump. Same thing with Moxley, same with Jericho. Like, you have to evolve, like, you have to train. It goes back to evolving. That's how you evolve yourself. Because if you just stick to what you were doing, for 5 years, you're not doing anything different. And the way the business works, the business, wrestling changes every 5 years. There's always something different every 5 years. So if you're not, picking up and keeping up with the times, you get swept by. And that's why you're in the indie scene for 15 years and haven't done anything besides in your small little network, because you didn't invest in yourself.
I think there is some truth to that, but I also think that there's some other parts to it too. Because one thing I definitely learned like throughout the show and stuff like that is that a lot of wrestlers, they know how to make their money, and they make their money in their area, and they're just happy with what they're doing.
Well, that's true. Well, I mean, absolutely true. Not to say that that's the only reason why people like that. Not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody wants to be at the top. As far as like, that's factual. Like, some people, that's what they want to do, and that's fine. Yeah, you're right. By all means, like, you're happy. I'm talking about the bitter ones, and exactly.
Yeah.
We've been around them. We know, and they're more out there like that. That's been like, oh, I've been putting in this amount of time, and I ain't. I should have been got that call.
I've been in the business. I've been in the business for 20 years, man. And then you find out that they've had like 20 matches, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay. But you know what? There's
I wrestled Matt Hardy in the main event. in MCW.
There is those guys though that and I'll throw his name out there. Gino Told You So, right? Who has been grinding out for like the last 16 years, right? And although he keeps pushing, and you keep seeing like he's changing and evolving his character from when he was like, you know, the Puerto Rican Poppy, all the way up to, you know, the Puerto Rican Pitbull, to, you know, the Frank Sinatra. he's like changed, evolved, and he continues to grow and stuff. And it's cool because you're talking about 16 years. And one thing that you definitely said right at the beginning was that when you're done learning, get out. And this is a dude who he's a teacher, right? And then he's also a mentor to a lot of other students that aren't his. And then, you know, he's out there on the grind himself. And then you see him work places like WWE as an extra. Or you see him, you know, getting invites over to be in North Dakota to teach a seminar, right? He's always like pushing and evolving. And you see these growths in these people, and then they give that knowledge back, which is definitely really cool and definitely appreciated. And it's cool because you and I have so many mentors that we're always bouncing ideas off of. Like, I think that's what helped us accelerate in our growth. And that's why I think both of us understand that we have a finite amount of time, and that we really are going to just like grind super hard and like as many people as we can. Because I mean, everybody from Andino to the guys Prolific to Gino to, you know, Sean Donovan, right?
Yeah.
We're always plucking like the tree and like getting so much fruit from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we put in the effort, you know, because like you said, you know, you got in the game late, you know, later than most people. I'm gonna say getting it late. I want to say that. Make it sound like you're like 54 getting into wrestling. Yeah. Like I had a dream, man. I did that backyard wrestling when I was in my teenage years, and I think I'm gonna do it now. A little crisis. But like, and then I've always gave myself the 40 limit because I want to get back on. I want to get back in front of the camera on stage. So that was always my goal. So yeah, we know the time that we have. We set ourselves. It's like we set ourselves with a plan. We didn't just willy-nilly like just go into this. I also look at it the fact that, you know, we're both family men, we both have wife and kids, and we're like, all right, like this got to work because, you know, this is for them, you know, in a sense, you know. So I think that also plays in effect, you know, because a lot of the, you know, not other independent wrestlers, you know, are young, you know, fresh out of college, and just like, hey, let's go till we go. Where we can't go as we go. We got to make sure the fort good. And then we can go as we do, but it's like we have responsibilities. you know what I'm saying?
It's definitely that balance that we definitely have to find, right? Like
it keeps us grounded. That's the word I want. Because you can get lost. Listen, take it from a guy who was in the entertainment world, fresh in college, 19 years old. Listen, having a family, having kids, a wife, all that really grounds you, because this, like, living that, like, the entertainer style of life, like being an entertainer, doing any type of art period, is draining in itself emotionally. But that lifestyle of that, you can get swept up in it.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing I've seen like a lot with a lot of different people, is that all of a sudden, like, you get a few bookings, right? And all of a sudden, like, your whole attitude changes. And I wonder if that's just like a thing that happens with like guys who, I don't say guys, people who've been in for just under like 5 years. I have no idea, because like, I feel like because like all the stuff that I've been through, all the stuff that you've been through, and then other people kind of like keeping us focused.
Yeah.
has forced us, because like I look at some of the other people too, and the way they work, and all of a sudden they just have like, they lose their edge, but then they gain like this chip. And that chip just gets bigger every week, and then their head swells like massively, and you're like, no, what is right. This? Like, yeah, like I know of a certain person. I'm gonna drop names. It's not gonna matter. But when we first started working, very excited, very young, very like hip to everything. And as time progressed, and they were getting bookings, and like people were talking to them and stuff, man, just that all of a sudden it became about them. we're gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. You're gonna do this. This is how we're gonna do this. This is what I want to do for us. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, pump and brakes, because like I have no idea why it became about you when it should have became about the show. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even an age thing. I think it's just, I think it's a little bit about the spotlight in the business, right?
Yeah. Well,
You
yeah,
are-
because
you see it and you're like,
yeah, I think at the end of the day, you got to get yours, right?
Right.
It's at the end of the day, you got to get yours. So there's that. Like that's just the way it is. That's life. Like that's just life. You got to get yours. And some people you got to step on other people's toes, but
yeah. But I feel like that's the problem though, is that like
yeah,
younger, and I don't want to say younger wrestlers, because let's be real, like I'm a young wrestler, right? But I feel like younger wrestlers, like, yeah, we're all hungry and stuff like that, but man, at some point, like you cannot try to devour your own, because what ends up happening is that a lot of things turn really quick, and then you just become ostracized, and then you're gonna be like, what happened? What the fuck? What went down? And you're just like,
right.
well, this is what you did, man. You're a shit person to a bunch of people in the back. You're a shit person to a bunch of people in the front, and you're a shit person to a bunch of the fans. Like, ultimately, when you cut the legs out of a lot of different people, you're not getting invited back. So you really should not burning bridges. You know what I mean?
That's factual. But as we've seen in wrestling, everyone gets an invite.
Yeah, and that's true. So, what's one of your favorite lessons so far that you've kind of like picked up on and were able to utilize?
Slow the fuck down. Oh my gosh. It's you'll never truly understand like the importance of slowing the fuck down. I am an energizer bunny. As if you see me work, you see me on the debate show. I am on go. I'm at 110 all day long. I'm the energizer bunny. I'm ready to go. So I get excited. I get hyped. I'm ready to go. And that's what hindered me really for like the first 6 to 8 months of like really working and doing shows was I'd get in there and I'm ready to go mile a minute and not understanding that let me take my time and let everything marinate. Especially when I would do heel work. I'm not like now watching back my old matches. After tagging myself in, it'd be my turn to do some heat. I would do one small thing, a stomp. All right, tag. Here goes the tag spot. Whereas I can take a lot of that time, do a move, rest, hold them there, build heat, just slow and steady. And another match I think really was the one at Fight. I feel like that was one of the most. I learned so much in that match, and that was 8 minutes. It was only 8 minutes, and I shout out to Eric Royal, because he a breeze to work with, and he really gave me a lot as a heel. Being a smaller heel, he gave me a whole lot, and I think part of it, another thing is that he just said, "Take your time, do whatever you're gonna do. Take your time. We'll work it. We'll be fine." I was like, "All right," and that's what I did. I took my time and I breathed, and I think that's why the crowd really was involved. Was hyped for this 8-minute match. Like I got a "This is awesome" chant, like a couple people, and like it wasn't a full chant, but I heard them in the in the crowd. So like I got a "This is awesome" chant at a fight show that's going to drop on IWTV. So, but yeah, just slowing down, man. Just not trying to go a mile a minute. I even like told Noah, we recently had our first tag match, just us two, and before he went in there, I said, "Slow the fuck down," and he slowed down, and it was perfect. It's just he said, "I heard you," and I slowed down. I said, "That's all that matters, bro." So that's my favorite lesson, because I always am constantly telling myself, slow down. They say, if you're working fast, slow down. If you're still working fast, slowed even further down. And that's, you get more out of the match because you let people breathe and to register certain things.
I think it's the biggest thing. You just said, like, you get to, the fans get to register like what's being shown to them, right? Because that was one thing that, like, you and I, like, we when we first got in, we were like, all right, we're gonna do this. Because I've gone back and looked through like some of our practice matches, and I was like, damn, like there's a lot of potential in these matches, but you could tell like we were just so hyped to work that we were just like this lock, hammerlock, headlock, and we were just this, that, and I was like, okay. And I was like, could definitely see like where the problems were. What's funny is though, watching your match at Fight, I was like, damn, dude, like you could see the massive improvements that have happened from the shadow days to our current situations, right?
Yeah.
And even like we recently got to work, and I was like, damn, I could just feel it. Just felt different, like just being in the room with you than normal, like because we'll be front when the shadow days were happening, like we were definitely like, hey, this that, and I watched that match back recently, like recently, that was like
that shadow day one.
It was like
very first one.
I was like weird. I was like, I am definitely some trash. Like, and I looked back at my first match, and I was like, I'm glad I had Ron with me, but I'm still definitely some trash. And then I watched my most recent one. I was like, you know what? Like 2 years later, I'm still some trash. Like I still
Me and Noah were doing film. We were, looking at, just looking at matches, and we started looking. And I was on the phone and told you about it. We were looking at, all our past matches and just saying like, how would we do this differently? And I was watching. I think it was what match was it? It was it was our first match in 2021. It was AFCW. It was this fatal 4-way tag match, which wasn't going to be good from the jump. And I'm looking at me and I'm looking at Prince, and I'm like, ew. I was like, I want to take this down. I want to take this off of YouTube. But like, and then I watched our NCWA match. And I'm just like, wow, okay. So still there's some things that can be, we're in tweaked and work, but it ain't what was that. It's not that. But yeah, man, it's the growth that we both have had it's insane. This whole pro indie journey we've been on is just insane. Period. Like it's just period. Everything about it has just been insane.
I'll tell you,
starting off the fact that the pandemic happened, and that's when we, make our debut when there's no wrestling,
right.
And like it's to post pandemic, whether it's really want to call it post pandemic or not, but like to now it's just insane.
Well, I was looking at my calendar, right? Because I don't know if you know, but I've been writing down every single match that I've had from my first debut match to the most recent.
No,
right?
I have not. Wow.
So I only have 4 matches in 2020. That's it. Yeah, 4. You would have thought I wrestled a lot more, but I only have 4. And in 2021, I had 17, right? Okay. And I know guys who have worked 17 matches in a month. So, but this year, like I'm already on pace to hit over that amount of matches, and we're not even halfway through the year.
Yeah.
And I think what's been interesting is a lot of people say this too, is it's match time, right? Like you just have to be in the match, like to get that experience that you're looking for, to get better, like you have to have that match time. And I think one of the things that I definitely appreciated was when I go back and look and work with more guys who are experienced and stuff, they always tell me that they're like, well, you're really easy to work with. You're a lot of fun. You listen well, which that's probably the best advice that I think I've ever got, was just listen. You're like, and you don't panic. And I was like, I think the reason I don't panic is because of something that Sicken said to me, right? Was that it's because, one thing that people always talk about, it's not if you get hurt, but when you get hurt. But more importantly, it's not if you mess up, but when you mess up, and how do you recover from those mess ups, right?
Yeah.
I've been so fortunate that I've been able to watch a lot of my videos where a lot of my matches where I've made these mistakes. And then the next time that's come around, I've been able to kind of not really, I won't say mask it, but at least cover it to some extent so that I like it doesn't look as apparent, right? I can still pick it out, but it's not as faulty as what it looked like before. And I think that's such a testament to like hearing that and then applying it and using that constantly. And I tell a lot of people who come to training now that I'm just like, hey man, just know you're gonna fuck up a lot, a lot. Make all the mistakes that you want in this ring and even in the show. Because if you mess up in the show and you just like shrug it off, smile, say talk some trash or do something, you can kind of hide it. But if you're at practice and you mess up, bro, just get up and try it again.
Try it again,
yeah. And I think that's important. Is that's a part of being in growth, right? It's not only just being able to watch video and utilize and know what you're messing up, but then going back and practicing and understanding like, oh, this was the situation I was in last time. If this happens, I'm going to do this, right? So like something I'll talk about it like here on the show, right? If you go back and you watch my match with Cade Lothbrok, right? It's going to be attached to IWA Vintage Pro Wrestling. So I pick up Cade, and one thing that I normally like to do is I like to pick up guys, talk some shit, right, and then and do the spine buster.
Mm-hmm.
But I forgot to mention that to Cade, so Cade didn't post, and I picked him up, and as I walk in with him, I stumble and I drop him, like not in the center of the ring, which was another lesson that needs to be taught. But I dropped him, kind of closer to the turnbuckle, and then I went for the pin, which was the good part. But the one thing, I went to the back and I was thinking to myself, I was like, listen, if that happens again, if it's a bigger guy, just take him down. Don't worry about the pickup, the spine buster, holding whatever it is. There's some guys you're gonna be able to just do it with, and some guys that you're not. And psychologically, for me, I have to remember that guys who are bigger than me, just take them down. Guys who are smaller than me, pick them up, talk your shit. That way you can show off your strength. But you've already displayed your strength by showing that you can pick up this individual. And I forgot about that lesson until I watched my match back with Beastman and then watched it back with Cade. Because that spine buster, Beastman didn't post up. Like, he didn't post up long enough for me to hit him with the spine buster. He's just like, listen, you're big. He's like, and I got to think about this too. He's like, you're big, you pick me up, you take me down. And I should have done the same thing with Cade. And see, that's the thing I can play back, because if I hold up Cade, it takes away from his size and it makes him look dumb. And I have to remember to attack somebody else's size. And there's just more multi lessons that I can like learn and peel from it like an onion. But though that was like something so massive that I was like, okay, that happened. Let's take it away, and we'll take away in the next match that I have to do with someone who's in that bigger spot.
No, same. Yeah, definitely the size thing. Trying to remember that, and the psychology of that is definitely it's big, because especially for tag matches, being the smaller guy, compared to Prince, I'm always going to be, when we're baby faces, I'm always going to be the one taking the heat. It's just, it makes sense. He's the bigger guy. Have him come in, fire up. He can do all these big power moves to the hot tag. Now, does that to say that there are times where I won't do the hot tag? I mean, there are times, but I always remember that my size, and I don't want to make them look dumb.
Right.
And then sometimes I have issues. I still, I still work on, because I'm a smaller guy. A lot of people shouldn't be bumping for me off jump, even though I am, I got the guns. but it's you look back, because like now I look at back at an old match. I'm like, I should have definitely took the heat. There's a specific match I'm thinking about too. I was like, I should have took the heat. It makes no sense of me coming in like, but yeah.
There's like a lot of things that you just end up picking up just psychologically wise, and I don't want to drop all secrets, right?
Right. Yeah.
It was something that I learned on Young Rock, right? This is a perfect example. It's when
Young Rock. Oh wow.
Yeah. So, and this is what it is, right? And anybody who's gonna be like, you're exposed, whatever, man. The Rock has already exposed this part. But anyway, so it was a scene where Rock was wrestling the Brooklyn Brawler, right? And Brooklyn Brawler took him down, put him in a sleeper, right? Or just a rear naked choke, just had him sitting down. And Rock was like, he's like struggling, right? And then he was like, what do I do next? And yo, Brooke Brawler says, calm down, just listen. If the crowd is gonna get into it, they're getting into it any minute now. And that was it. And I thought about it, I was like, holy shit, like this goes back to what you were saying about slowing down, right? It was like he slowed down, they were listening to the crowd, and then the crowd was like, come on, let's go. And then they started getting behind him, and I was like, yo, that is just
bro.
that's major.
That's why I want to run back my match with Prolific. I lie to you not, man. Like, I think that was the wake up call. That was legit the wake up call. I will say that was the match that woke me and Prince up. Was like, all right, it's that, we got to put in legitimately put in work, because that was garbage, and it wasn't up to our standard. That's why I don't even watch it. I have it saved, but I don't watch it because, granted, yeah, we had a booking the night before from West Virginia to do a taping, in PG the next day. Tired driving, yes, cool, that plays into a part. But you did that same drive, you had a fairly decent match. Not to say that me and you, it's just if you can do it, so can we. And I think our head wasn't in it, we weren't. So, but yeah, I want to redo it because I know pure ignorance and Prolific can make magic. I know, like, I just knowing we were not ready.
Oh no, by all means. And I got put in a fortunate position. Like, you guys got put into this position where it was like, here you are with Isaiah and Marquise, and like, you guys gotta go, right? I got a position where I got put in with Ron Holiday and Darius Carter, which by all means, Darius, obviously being the veteran that he is, understood that, hey, yo, this is match number 2 for this guy who's green as shit.
Yeah.
Still green, right? It's just super, super, super green, like fresh, like new. And he's like, let me help take care of this guy because he's the face. We're going to try to get him over. And that was the one thing that I appreciated, was that Darius was like, hey, and he was like, hey, try to listen. And this was the best part. And I don't think we've ever talked about this part, but he was like, hey, try your best to listen to me as we go through and see what you can get done. He knew the spots that I had talked to him about previously, right? But it was a moment in the match, right? It was right in the beginning where Darius was testing me, right? And he just wanted to see how well I could listen. And so I very softly, man, he grabs me and he pulls me in. He was like, bump, bam, hits me with this European. And I bumped. And he just goes, he slid over and he was just like, and then he walked over and picks me up. And I watched the video back and I saw it. And it was the first time I noticed it was like a couple weeks back. And I remember him coming to me and he was like talking to me about these notes and stuff, right? And the one thing he said this in passing so slightly, but then it was it stuck with me now that I'm thinking about it back. And he's like, no, dude. He's like, yeah. He's like, yo, it's crazy because I didn't think you heard what I said. And then, he was like, it was good on you. And he came back to me and he was like, these are some things that I think you should do to change this, add this, come up with something different here. There was just a lot added to it. But more importantly, it was the fact that he was just like, bump. And the way he said it, and then he hit me and I bumped and he was just like, yep. And I was like,
I think instinct too. Because and one thing I feel with us is we have good instincts.
Yeah.
And we tend to trust our instincts, especially in situations like that where it may get, a little chaotic. We trust our instincts and we eventually get back on track. But I think that also plays in the fact too. You have really good wrestling instincts. Like, you have a real good, like, your IQ level in 2K is at like a 97.
I think one of the bigger lessons too, and this is something that we've talked about numerous times, like off camera as well as on camera, and maybe not on camera like on the show, but it's something that we'll talk about, is not dying, right? Which I had a habit of like doing ridiculously, right? Because like, you take a punch, you get beat down, blah, and then like at a point, like I just wouldn't fight back. And I watched my match back with JS Hawthorne, and I was like, yeah, dude, you didn't throw like a single punch, you didn't do anything. So when I'm in these other matches now, like I see myself like throwing a punch back or like pushing a person back or like throwing a kick and trying to keep them away from me, right? Keeping like the distance. It took a long time to figure that out. And I think it was because one, I've been put in positions with people who allow me to, who will say those things back to me, and I'll react instinctively. Like they'll be like, you know, shot, and just walk away and come back and bam, I hit them with a shot. Now it's getting to the point where it's like they come in and bam, I hit them with a shot, and then like we'll keep it moving. So a perfect example would be like at HWF with Andino, right? Like anytime that Andino was like walking away, he come back, I give him a shot. And maybe part of it too is that I'm comfortable working with him because that's full blown. We train with him.
Like, yeah, that's my dog. That's the GOAT. That's the GOAT. That's the GOAT. Shout out to Andino, the GOAT.
But it was, I think that's the other part too. And then even when I was working with TJ, like I understood like, oh yeah, shot, oh, take a shot back, throw one, kick one, just those little things. What I ended up learning too, this was something that Sicken ended up teaching me afterwards, was in another match, there was a manager who was like choking me and like stuff like that. He's like, dude, pie face him, push him away, fight back. He's like, you're just getting choked on the ropes. He's like, you're selling it and you're making your facials, right, that you're being choked. But he's like, but you're not fighting back. He's like, just push back. So in another match, there was a manager who was choking me, and I like pie faced him like out of the way because I was like, fuck out of here. I was like, stop touching me. And it's weird. It's weird to hear those back and it, obviously apply what you're learning. And I think that's what a lot of it comes down to, is that you have to remember like everybody's working together, but you got to also not die. You got to fight back.
Right. Yeah. Because if you don't, I learned you don't fight back, there's no reason to cheer for you.
No,
it's like it's a roller coaster. There are highs and there are lows. Like that's where you get the crowd. Like you can bring them up, they'll bring them back down. Then you got that one last. You get up, and then you come down with the the comeback. There you go down there. There's the dip. They're all riled up and all that. Yeah, man. It's like a roller coaster. There are highs and lows. And so like when you fight back, they give them a little chance to cheer for you. That's when the heel comes down, cuts that off. Bow, boo. It builds up. It builds up. That's when you have, when you're really good, that's when they all go, batshit crazy.
I love that part where you get like you're going back and forth. You can feel the crowd is like getting ready to explode, and then you like boom, that big double down, and then the crowd just ape shit crazy, like, oh my god, what just happened, right? And then like everybody's trying to get you back into it and stuff, and you're obviously down because you're tired.
Right. I know. I can think back a couple matches where I'm just like, oh, they're into this one. All right, they go. Whew. I look over. Okay, we're still down. Okay, cool.
Just like get my breath real quick. That's also, I think, something else that a lot of people don't talk about a lot, and it's something that we should definitely address now, right? Since we're talking about it, cardio. I remember Sicken saying this, right? He's like, there's three types of shape, right? You're in shape, you're out of shape, and then you're in ring shape, right? And I look at a lot of people, and man, I I remember being completely exhausted my first like 10 matches in wrestling, right? Just being dog tired. But then like this year, like I have yet to feel like I've been overly exhausted. Like I've had a lot of good matches where I'm like, yeah, like I'm not dead. Like I just know like I worked hard.
Right. Like, you did strenuous activity. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can get up and like walk myself out. There have been times where I was like, no, I just feel like someone needs to peel me off this mat because I'm just dead. But this year alone, man, I feel like I finally got my cardio like up and in a good spot. Like it could be better, like no doubt. Like I'm not running a 60-minute Broadway, right?
Right.
But I could definitely like work, and I feel like I can actually work now and listen better and be, continually evolving and changing. And I think that's important that, cardio, work on it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree because I even like I haven't done a lot of shows this half of the year, but definitely our last show. I was just after our match. I was like, damn, I can go for another match. I was like, yeah, that was it. And I think that was 10 minutes, and I was like, damn, I'm not tired. I can go again. Y'all need me? You got battle royal or something going on? Like, but it's just like cardio. It's really important as much as people don't want to think it is, because if you're gassed, you can't, not only protect yourself, but you can't protect your opponent. And like, yeah, that's a no.
I feel like there's got to be some kind of ratio for like a bump per like time that you have in the ring, right? Because I say that because like if you're bumping like 6 or 7 times in a match, right?
Right.
Your cardio is done. Like you're just done. It is what it is. I mean, it's because if you're in a 10-minute match and you bump 6 times, you know what I mean, like that's a lot of like hitting, getting air knocked out of you, getting back up and like working, right? So I always think to myself like, man, I'm trying to put in like, close to 60 minutes of cardio this week, right? It's a lot to say, right? Because, obviously 12 minutes, if you're doing 12 minutes of cardio, you do it 5 days a week, that's 60 minutes. There you go, it's simple math, right? But your average match is going to go 8 to 10 minutes, right? And if if you're holding out cardio, strenuous cardio at like, close to 12 minutes, you're going to be okay, right? And I think there's got to be some kind of like, I might have to go ask more people and just kind of get a good gauge. Maybe someone like Sin Body could answer it. But I feel like there's got to be like that 1 to 3, 1 to 4, like for every bump, you're taking out so many minutes out of yourself out of the match. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not good with math, so I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to start.
I'm not. I'm just gonna say, for every bump that you take, that's probably like a minute and a half that you've taken off your cardio. So you should probably think about that.
You know what? You could say that, and I'll be like, "That's right," because I have no.
Oh, I was gonna share with you, man, one of the best pieces of advice that I received, right? And I just want to see how you feel about it, right? Because this is something we've talked about offline, but we've also talked about this. We actually talked about this on the debate show. But a good friend of ours, a good mentors of ours, O'Shea Edwards, thank you for this piece of advice. It was something that definitely we should talk about, right? Because something we've learned, right, while we've been in this is that you're gonna make a lot of acquaintances, right? And then you're gonna have a lot of friends, and then you're gonna have your team, and you're gonna have those people that are in your corner. But just know that every one of your acquaintances aren't your friends, who's on your team, who's in your corner. So you should keep your circle small and understand like who's really in your corner versus who's on your team, right? And I think about that all the time, man, because it's constantly on my mind that when I look back and I look at a lot of the people that I talked to, there's been a lot of people who I know are on my team, and I know they're on my team, but there's not a lot of people that are in my corner. And I know that because I can look at those guys and I'm like, there's just a disconnect there. So I'm kind of curious as to you, like, how's that lesson like applied to you?
The funny thing is it's a lesson that I already knew. It's one of those things I feel was like ingrained in me. Like I was, fortunate enough to have great male mentors growing up. And I think that was instilled in me growing up. So I already knew like that everybody that I knew wasn't my friend who claimed to be my friend, and not everybody who was like in my circle isn't always for me. So and when you bring it to wrestling, it's so true. Because like I said earlier, everybody's got to get theirs. And so like people can like, even though everybody's on, you can be on the same team, but there's also those that got to get theirs. They're going to make sure that, at the end of the day, I got to make sure that I'm at the top or, whatnot. Not to say that they would, backstab you or anything, but, there's still that individual, goal. But it's true. I mean, it's like that in any business, especially entertainment, because it's a cutthroat business. Being in show business is cutthroat. Doesn't matter what form it is, whether it's you're an actor, a singer, a dancer, wrestler. If you're in any type of performance, it's cutthroat because there are other people out there like you, right? It's always what's the next thing? What's the next thing that's going to, that's hot? So that's the advice anybody should know. Not even just getting into business, That's a good life advice. Point blank.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like that's how
it's
you
crazy.
avoid getting yourself, used.
No, I mean, and you're right. It's one of those things that's just been crazy where I was like, I sat back and thought about it and then looked and like, kind of like, I don't say, I don't say mentor or I don't know. It's kind of molded and thought about it and just kept thinking about it and hammering out the idea. And legit, like I had to do like a gut check and just kind of like check through my list of people that I know and people who I would, or who would I thought were my friends, just not just in wrestling wise, but just kind of life wise, and just been like, okay, well, like there's half of you, and I just eliminate that half, and then I look at the other, and then from the half that I've eliminated, the half that I still have, I have to remember that I'm gonna have to cut out 2/3 of those people because they're even though they're
Yeah.
like they're my friends and I can talk to them and stuff like that. I just know at the end of the day they don't see the things that I see, right? And then you got to really look at like your corner, right? And then just kind of decide is everybody here understanding what your goal is, what your mission is, what you're trying to push, and what you're trying to achieve. And at that point, if they're not on your page, then you're gonna have to cut those people out, and you're gonna have to keep pushing. Because I know what the end goal is for us, at least for this podcast, and I know what the end goal is for myself as far as being a wrestler. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to be in my corner or on my team, then hey yo man, like just keep it pushing. Like I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate that you're here. I appreciate you that you support me. But if you're not supporting me in this aspect of what I'm trying to do, by all means, I appreciate you being here. But if I need to come to you and ask you about something, you're gonna be like, you know what? Nah, I can't help you. I mean, I appreciate you, but I gotta go to my corner, and my corner is gonna help me get to where I need to get to.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, and that's life. That's life.
Like, yeah, it's tough though, man.
Whatever that goal that you're trying to get to, if they're not in your corner, then you just, like, you cool and all, like, yeah, I'll check you later, but I'm gonna go this way and be about my business, do what I gotta do. And yeah, that's life.
Yeah, it is tough, man, because you're like, man, like you have all these circles that you run in, and you understand like the circle is not all circles can intersect, right? Like you might find one
Correct.
person
Yes.
who might be down with everything that you did, but that might be it. That might be the only. You might find one person, and I think that's what's crazy.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, damn, bro, like that is insane to me to think about. So we got to talk about one last thing, man, before we pop over to, the new segment for this.
I can. You promise me there's 5 people.
Oh, I have to go back and if I had to really think about it, I probably got maybe 1 or 2 that are down with like all the bullshit that I do. I think maybe 1 or 2 maybe just down with me for
That's
everything. But so, one thing that I think a lot of people don't talk about a lot in wrestling too is travel, right? We have a lot of road that we have put down, like just you and I, just in the past 2 years, put down a ton of miles to go to different shows and different shows and to work, right? But it also comes down to having a good team of just people that you can kind of fuck with and vibe with while as you're driving along. And what is some of the biggest takeaways that you've taken from those car journeys?
Sometimes don't always go to Sheets on that ride back. That's sometimes that late night Sheets run will mess you up the next day. But no, it's just the just the exchanging of ideas, really, and just the camaraderie. I think that's one of the the best things. Especially just hanging with your guys, your boy, your team. Like half the time, you don't have to be talking about wrestling. It could be just whatever. And those are probably some of the best ones. And then of course, you get all your funny moments, and you got those crazy car stories. But most of those are with your friends. Like your actual team. Because like, let's be real, you're not sitting in a car with anybody just for over 3 hours. Really.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorites is like being able to sit back and just like enjoy. I know it's funny. I'll tell the story here on the show. Andina and I, we went to HWF. We were coming home, and I hit random on the shuffle, right, on the iPod, on the Apple Music, as we're driving back down. And I don't know why, man, but for the 3 hours that we were driving back, nothing but 50 Cent was playing. It wasn't by accident. It was just all 50 playing. I have no idea why, but it was just all 50 playing. And Andino was like, man, this is the best trip. It's like I got in this car, and the car was just like, oh, Andino's here, all 50 all the time. So we listened to like 3 hours of 50 Cent just driving back. It was the most ridiculous car ride. But it was just something that was cool. And then obviously like we got to share like some advice and
that's
exchange information that we were learning from like the road. But it was just cool to just sit back, and that was just that one fun story that just kind of came to mind. I was thinking about while we were driving back, and I was like, yeah, that definitely happened. And I thought it was just it was funny because like I got in the car the next day, hit the shuffle again, and no, everything else changed. Like I was like, yo, so that one time we got 3 hours of 50 Cent. I was like, it's crazy, but it was cool. So
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with 3 hours of 50 Cent.
bet, man. But we're gonna get into one of my favorite parts as we wrap this up, right? So we're gonna call this something that you're familiar with because we have ran this before, but we're gonna run this on this show. It is called Pin Submit DQ, and it works like this, man. I'm gonna fire off 3 names, 3 rounds, 3 names, right? You gotta pin one, submit one, DQ one. Yeah.
All right, I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting.
Bet. So we're gonna go off the first 3 names, right? We're just gonna fire off Riot City. So we're gonna go with Sicken, Ron Holiday, and Jason Drake.
All right, so I'm pinning Jason Drake. I'm submitting Sicken just cause it's Sicken. And I would love to rub it in his face that I made him tap out. And then DQ Ron because it's fucking Ron.
Bet. So let's talk about we'll use the car, right? So for that, we're talking about Prince Machiavelli, we're talking about Noah Idol, and of course, Red Dawg himself. There's your 3.
Okay. Oh wow. All right. I'm going to get heat for this one. All right. I'm submitting Noah. um, I'm pinning you, and then I'm DQing Prince because it's like everything. In any list that we're a part of, he's always one above me, and he's just got to get. Yeah, it's got to fuck him up. I'm better than him.
All right, and then the last one, man, we're just gonna really just kind of throw out 3 names out here for you: MJF, Kenny Omega, and my tribal chief, your tribal chief, the man that sits at the head of the table, Roman Reigns.
Oh. Well, I would never ever try to submit or pin the chief, so we're just gonna put that a DQ right there. All right. Then we're going to do, uh, we'll pin MJF, and then um, we'll submit Kenny Omega.
Bet. There you go.
That was a hard
He
one.
gave you all the pin submits and DQs. But let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
You can find me on all social media platforms at Chaz _the Don. That's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. That's all I got. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, your Pure Ignorance YouTube channel. Just type in Pure Ignorance. Once you see the three black guys, that's us. Um, yeah, definitely subscribe. Also, you can catch me on this network right here, the 3 Count Podcast, on my debate show. All right, on Sundays between 5 and 5:30, me and Cliff argue with each other. Sometimes we have our friends come in, but normally not at this point in time. I'll be arguing with Cliff, and Cliff argues with me. So yeah, definitely check that out. Um, yeah, that's it. I'm going to be in a movie soon, so I can't talk about it. But so yeah.
Well, bet. There you go. He gave you all the handles. He told you where you can find him, like the link down below right here that says the Swing Out Podcast. That's ours. But like every good part of a wrestling match, we got to take this home. Because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering 201. That's right. And we're sitting right here with the man, the myth, the legend, the Don, Chaz Evans. Because, like every good Sherpa, you got to have a Sherpa who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. But you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there, or you just wait for this episode to end. You wait for that outro, and then you choose another episode to listen to. Peace. What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dawg Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3 Count _ pod. Give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3 Count pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm /the 3 Count Podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3 Count Podcast also has merchandise. Oh! At prowrestlingtees.com /the 3 Count Pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So, show us some support, please.